The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is sponsored by Two Fat Lardies, Geek Nation Tours, and by the generous donations of you, the listener. Thank you to everybody for your support. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast, episode 229, The Godfather, Corleone's Empire, with hosts Neil Shuck, Mike Hobbs, and Mike Whittaker.
Greetings one and all, and welcome to another episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. Yes, you can tell from the ambience of my voice that yet again I am stuck in a hotel room in deepest, darkest London and not in my usual recording studio. Apologies in advance for any reduction in sound quality, and if it interrupted your enjoyment of last week's show, I can only apologise. However, we shall continue to attempt to entertain and stimulate you over the next couple of hours, or maybe not quite as long. Anyway, welcome one and all, and welcome as well to the show. We have the Welsh wizard himself. It is Mr. Michael Hobbs. Hello, sir.
Hello. How's everybody? Hello to all of the Meeps. I hope the Meeps are well. You're sounding good, mate. Lovely sound in that hotel room.
Yeah. Yes, it's all hard surfaces and yeah. Never mind.
Only a few more days.
Only a few more days, indeed. And of course, the person who has got the headache of trying to sort all this out, recording live. It is our resident troubadour. Yes, contradiction in terms acknowledged. It is Mr. Michael Whittaker. Hello, sir.
What? Recording? Does that mean I'm supposed to press record?
Press the button, Mike. Press the button.
Way ahead of you. Got you.
Well, welcome, sir. How are you doing? You
all right? I'm not so bad. Not so bad. Sitting amid a small pile of plastic sprues and other things.
Aha.
So no change there then.
No, well, I mean, it depends. I mean, after last week's escapades, it depends if he's actually got a brain carrier with with a working aerial, or whether he just tore some of his remaining hair out trying to get an aerial that didn't break.
No, I cut off about an inch of guitar string, heated it on the gas jet, and shoved it in.
Aha!
That'll do it.
Oh, there we go. Indeed. Yes. Okay, so we start the show with a news item that Mr. Hobbs spotted on the Lead Adventurers forum.
Oh yeah, I did. Yeah. It appears that other worlds are going to be reducing their ranges soon, so they're selling off some of their ranges, selling off the masters, not the production molds, but masters figures, some of the production runs, painted figures. So it looks like they're trying to reduce the range down a bit so it's a bit more manageable, because that range has got really big over the last few years. They're looking for companies to buy some of their models, which would be interesting. I'm not sure how I feel about it, to be honest with you. Hope it goes to somebody who's going to keep the ranges going. Very interesting things going on.
Yeah, so it's some of their goblins and the
bugbears, trolls, and they said there might be some more as well. So it looks like they're thinning down the monsters selection.
It's unusual because, as I say, the vast majority of companies tend to look to increase their ranges. So I mean, whether it's just a case of no, it's just it's an interesting move.
Yeah, because obviously they're having their stuff cast by, I think they're cast by Griffin. So I would imagine that they're just having problems keeping everything in stock, and it must be an awful lot of outlay in holding that much stock, especially when you're not casting it yourself. So I was just going to say maybe they're just concentrating on the stuff that they know sells well, and and trying to reduce their sort of stock outlay.
Yeah, I mean that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? I mean, people don't tend to buy armies of trolls. I'm quite surprised that, the bugbears. Because the bugbears are, they're straight out of first edition Monster Manual, aren't they?
They're very similar. I mean, I'm sure.
Sorry.
From what I remember from conversation with them, wasn't that kind of the point?
Yeah.
I mean, these are the people who produced the demon off the front of the Dungeon Master's Guide, the player's handbook, aren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just looking at some of the things they've chosen. It's like, okay, I thought people were going, well, yeah. I mean, you need lots of bugbears. You need goblins. Okay, I can imagine. You only need the odd troll.
No, just interesting. It's only been advertised on Lead Venture as well. I haven't seen it anywhere else.
Neither have I.
So let's see.
Interesting.
So that's the news item.
That news thing we've stopped doing, you mean?
Yeah. That's the gossip item.
They
will be available until at least the 31st of October if you want to buy them before somebody buys the range.
It'll be interesting to see if they further, if they look to further reduce the range or what they're going to do with it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Shall we take a quick break and then we'll come back and we'll talk about what we've been up to this week.
Certainly.
The eagles have gone. Britain lies defenseless in a cruel world. Since the birth of our Lord, it has been 456 years. What sins have we committed to bring this punishment to Britain? I speak, of course, of the Saxons. They came as allies, but now they seek conquest. The lands of the Britons lie ravaged before them. Blood runs red in our island. We need a leader to stand against them. We need a man to bring together the Britons in common cause. We seek a Dux Britanniarum.
Right, that's enough of that. Dux Britanniarum from Two Fat Lardies. They really are very good.
What have we been playing? What have we been buying? We might even have painted something. The Meeples and Miniatures crew reveal all.
And we're back to discover what we've been up to in the last few days since we last spoke. Who would like to go first on this particular occasion? I think it's Mr. Whittaker's turn, is it not?
Yeah, you made me go first last time.
Yeah, well, you had many things to get off your chest.
The confessional.
Yes, and Neil's already had his confessional for this week.
Yes.
Never again.
Yes. Which hopefully the punters will never have to listen to.
So, what have I been up to? Well, games-wise, I sat in, rather than played, a game of Direwolf Rampant, which is our Game of Thrones Dragon Rampant, Line 1 Rampant variant, just to get my head around check the rules. All looks very fun.
Are we likely to get to hear anything further about that in the near future?
I'm trying to coordinate 4 people's diaries. Don't hold your breath.
Okay, because I know some people are quite keen to hear this. Yes, Mr. Minch.
I am well aware that some of the Meeps are very keen to hear more about this. And just as soon as I can persuade Andy, and Rob to actually agree on an evening to be in the same room at once, it will happen. But, yeah, it's all going well. Campaign starts not next Monday, but the week after, which means I need to get off my arse and finish these figures that are sitting here.
What their figures are then?
So, well, this week on the miniature, on the miniatures front, I've built 4 more brain carriers, which will not be going into Westeros. I'm not sure they'd survive. So we got 2 more, two with a pintle-mounted Bren and 2 with 2-inch mortars. I'm just pondering how best to do the 2 with Piats, given that nobody makes a 15mm Piat as a separate piece of stowage, which is rather annoying. I may actually have to work out if I can 3D print one.
What, in 15mm? Good luck with that.
This looks there or thereabouts, doesn't it? And I do have a relatively fine nozzle on this printer. I can do some fairly small scale, small detail stuff. It's about 10mm long. It's pretty much a metre long in real life. So in a 1/100th scale, it's 10mm long, which is printable. Might sneeze and blow it away, but it's printable. We'll see. I'll have a play. And I'm also currently sitting here surrounded by boxes of Fireforged Barbarians, Fireforged Soldiers, Griffin Beast, Dark Age Warriors, not Fireforged, Frostgrave Soldiers and Barbarians, Griffin Beast, Dark Age Warriors, and Fireforged Templars and Mounted Sergeants in an attempt to cobble together a Night Watch force. Which is proving interesting because various people's heads don't fit on various other people's bodies. Not everybody has cloaks, and the Night Watch has to have cloaks. So, for instance, some of my figures are straight Frostgrave Barbarians. Some have got arms from the Soldiers set. The mounted bowmen are going to be Fireforged Mounted Sergeants, but with heads from the Griffin Beast Dark Ages figures, because they're bareheaded, and arms from either the Teutonic Archers or the Fireforged Soldiers, and so on and so forth. It's all a bit of a sort of plastic kit bashing, and I do have the Dark Sword Jon Snow, which is a very, very nice cast.
Oh, that sounds an interesting little project.
It is, it's kind of fun. But yes, the Dark Sword Jon Snow, apart from being one of these where they expect you to hold all the bits of the white metal together on several points that are about 1 millimetre square, is a lovely piece of sculpting work. I think it's probably a Tom Mayer. These things tend to be... Dark Sword tend to be quite good at using named sculptors for that kind of thing, don't they?
Yeah, but yes, as you say, it's like, unfortunately, it's very fine detail. With not only the case of it's impossible to glue, it's equally almost impossible to pin.
It's a Tom Mayer. I've just checked. Yes, it is indeed a Tom Mayer. In this case, he's a 4-parter. He has a base. And his sword and the sword scabbard he's holding are both basically off at the wrist. So you've got to glue a wrist onto an arm. Usefully, unlike quite a few, there is a little bit of a pin on everything. So there is a bit of sort of, at least there's something to hold it in the right place for the minute it takes the super glue to set. And the base has the same. The base is a little sort of risen mound of something that annoyingly doesn't quite fit on a 25mm round base by about 2mm. And it's alright, it'll do. I've managed to assemble him without him falling apart, so I have a leader for the army. And I'm just basically going to be building about 12 figures a day for the next week, for the next 4 or 5 days, and then having a painting binge.
Well, let's face it though, if you got Night Watch, at the end of the day, painting's going to be relatively easy.
Spray them black, highlight them dark colours that aren't black, paint the flesh, paint the hair, paint the weapons, paint the belts, base them with snow.
That'll do.
Yeah, seems about right.
Looks good. Mm.
Yeah, indeed. And I have to say, as a general piece of feedback on the Frostgrave Barbarians, they're quite nice figures. I like them. They go together reasonably well, although I did have an amusing moment where about an hour apart, I built two guys with massive greatswords over their shoulders to discover that I've managed to do so with exactly the same figure, exactly the same other hand, and exactly the same head without realising I'd done it.
Attempting to be totally random and ended up creating...
Attempting to be totally random and failing dismally, yeah, exactly.
Oops.
Creating a pair of identical twins, which I suppose is not uncommon for the night, well, not impossible for the Night's Watch. So yeah, I've got 12 of them undercoated, half the next batch done, plus Mr. Snow. I'm then waiting for the box, waiting for a couple of things to arrive to do the archers and the cavalry, and that should be it.
What archers are you going to use as a matter of interest?
They are going to be the Fireforge Teutonic Knight Archers.
Hey? They do Teutonic Knight Archers?
Yeah. They do Teutonic Archers, yes. Let me just bring that.
Because I know they did. Because I know they did medieval archers. Didn't they like?
They're medieval archers. Sorry, they're medieval archers. So they are. Hang on, let's bring up the sprue. So they're basically the standard sort of light armoured figure with a bow arm and a drawing arm and a what's the word, quiver to glue somewhere. But they have two problems. One is they have no cloaks, and they've got to have cloaks to be Night Watch, obviously, because it's part of the uniform. So the cloaks are coming off the Teutonic Foot Knights figures, which do have cloaks. And I shall then pass the Teutonic Foot Knights figures on to somebody else in the club who will doubtless find a use for them, given the number of people who are using various Fireforge figures to build various armies. But the heads are coming off the Gripping Beast Dark Ages box. The Gripping Beast Dark Ages, just the generic figures. You've got a bit of a problem because there seem to be two styles of heads. The Fireforge ones have a sort of little, like the Wargames Factory ones, they have a little ball on the end of the head and a socket in the neck to fit into. Mm-hmm. The Fireforge, the Frostgrave ones, the Fireforge ones, because they have to hook a cloak round the neck, have quite a high neck, and the neck is cut off very short, which means, in fact, the Gripping Beast heads fit, but the Frostgrave ones don't. And again, most of the Night Watch seem to go around either helmetless or hooded, so I need lots of helmetless and hooded heads to go on the Fireforge archers. So it's an awful lot of hacking plastic, and it's kind of fun.
You should definitely have to get these people together in the near future so we can find out all about it.
Oh, it is planned. Hopefully, we're going to do it next week, but I can't promise. Cool. It's going to depend on getting everybody's diaries together.
Sounds really interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun little... I mean, we've got 15 players for this campaign. I think it's 15. Let me just check the list. So I happen to have the club forum here, which has the full list.
So are they all taking different factions? Or different, slightly different. Obviously, there are quite a few around, aren't there?
So we have, wait for it, because this is quite a ridiculous list. We have House Lannister, House Tyrell, House Stark, House Bolton, House Arryn, House Mallister, House Manderley, House Harlaw, House Targaryen, House Ullo, the Night's Watch, the Wildings, the Dawn, and House Tarbeck.
Excellent.
So it's going to be quite a big campaign day. But the nice thing is, with it being Dragon Rampant, effectively, it's quite quick to play. I mean, your forces, we're going with 30-point forces rather than 24, which I think is the standard, isn't it? For those who've played it. None of you have played it, have you? No. Right. We're going to, you know what? We're going to have to review this.
That's kind of what I was hinting at.
Yes. Lion Rampant, so it's 24 strength, 30 strength points rather than 24. Typically somewhere between about 4 and 10 units, depending on how cheap your units are. The Night Watch are well hard, so I'm averaging 4 to 5 points a unit, so I only get 6 units in my 30 points, whereas something like the Reach or the Riverlands, there's an awful lot of 2 and 1 point units if you want them. There's 3-point Lightfoot, that kind of thing. So they get quite a few if they want them. Or they can, if something like the Vale, if you want lots of Knights of the Vale at 6 points a pop, you don't get many units of those. So it's the usual. It's a point system. So you may sneer. I'm trying to remember where. The Iron Islands. There we go. So yeah, quite often, quite a lot of forces. They're predominantly units of 4 or 5 points. So you find yourself taking 1 point, a dozen 1-point grockles just to fill out the last point.
Mm.
Although apparently the Dragon Rampant rules do have this nice feature whereby if you are a point short on your army list, then you can choose not to play with that last point if you feel it offends you for the symmetry of the army, or the fact that your 1-point grockles are so crap that they get looked at by a major unit and run away. And instead, you can have half a point of glory at the end of the fight. Glory being a measure of how you do. So it's quite fun. Rob's got a nice set of army lists for all the kingdoms, a couple of extra abilities for, I think, particularly things like those. The major one is those forces that have horse breeders, like Dawn and the Dothraki, actually get bonuses for their horses. Other than that, it's a fairly straight conversion of a slightly odd hybrid of Lion Rampant and Dragon Rampant, of which more soon.
Cool.
And that's pretty much me. Next.
Go on, Neil, your turn.
My turn. Okay.
Yeah.
Haven't painted a lot. I'm a bit further on with my Test of Honour warband for the end of the month, with staying in a hotel, and then when I haven't been staying in a hotel, life has been a bit busy, so I haven't had much chance to progress that. Although I'm hoping to get them somewhere near finished this coming weekend. But I'll post pictures once it's all done, and you can have a giggle. Although I've been finding issues with my painting, and the fact of I'm now wishing I didn't paint the faces first, as I'm going to have to go back and repaint the faces anyway now. So never mind. Undisciplined dry brushing. I don't know. So wayward brush, one or the other. So I haven't bought anything this week. Although I do have to say thank you to several people for sending me boxes. Thank you to Mr. Hobbs in this particular instance for sending me a cave troll. Thank you to Mr. Hyde for sending me a selection of Lord of the Rings figures. That is sorely tempting me into thinking whether or not I should collect another army.
What did he send you?
Mainly Urukai, a few men, Urukai and elves. Thank you, and then thank you to Colin, Colin Snellgrove. Colin very kindly turned around and asked me, he says, "Oh, you collect dwarves, don't you, Neil?" I was like, "Yes." And he very kindly sent me a selection of dwarves from The Hobbit, most of which are very nicely painted. So that was a very nice surprise, and he completely refused to let me pay for them, which was most kind of him. So thank you, Colin. So they're being added to my dwarf forces as characters and perhaps an elite unit or two. But other than that, I don't. I'm just trying to think if there's anything I haven't confessed to buying. No, I think I'm in the clear this week.
I'm not. I've just remembered something, but I'll come up to it at the end because it's quite interesting.
Oh, okay. Played quite a few games this week. Managed to play a game of Lords of Waterdeep last week. There was 3 of us playing that. It's a really good 3-player game. The only downside of it, he's not here for me to whinge at him. But Mr. Luff, the whole way through, I was like, oh, I'm so far behind. Oh, this game's a foregone conclusion. Because for once, I did quite well early on and went out into the lead, and had to put up with Mr. Luff whinging for the next hour and a half about how far behind.
Let me guess. He won.
No. But he was second, and I beat him by a point.
Never has a victory be seen to be so sweet.
Oh, I bet you enjoyed that.
It has to be said, just a little bit. But
how many times did you count up? No, can't be right. Count again.
Yes, it was a bit close. Good game. I do like Lords to do. Next time round, I think we're going to start playing with the expansion and see what that adds. But it's a really good game. And then on Friday, I had a couple of games of X-Wing. We'd noted that although I had X-Wing as one of my favourite games, I hadn't played it for ages, and I'm starting to get a regular gaming session going with Josh. We're going down Battlefield Hobbies on a Friday night because they have a club night on a Friday night. Ostensibly, it's Friday Night Magic, but you can get a chance to do a few other bits and pieces. So we played X-Wing last week, played it again this week, and I'm just having fun building, doing alternative squadron builds, and just having a giggle with some different stuff. So yeah, that was good. And thank you to Jim for the chats on Twitter afterwards, all about Imperial squadron building. It seems that Mr. Ibbotson is quite a fan of X-Wing.
Yes, him and Mr. Deacon play fairly competitively, it seems.
I kind of gathered from the sort of stuff he was coming out with about squadron building. So not much painting done. Bit of gameplay. And managed to escape the week without buying anything, although I have up my pledge in Forager because they've turned around and said, oh, you can now buy cacadors. Yeah, I'm pledging for a group of cacadors as well on the Forager pledge because they look interesting. And that's me.
So, me then.
Right.
Well, first of all, I've been getting a little bit of, should we say, light-hearted banter and hassle from people on Twitter.
No, surely not.
Yes, I'm being.
Can't imagine
I'm being
why.
blamed for people buying stuff. You know, yes, they're saying that I should stop mentioning things. Well, no, I'm afraid I can't. For me, it's freedom of expression. I know you might see it as libertarianism, but I'm very comfortable with the fact that I'm allowed to say what I want. So I shall carry on in my pledge to say things that I like, and you don't have to buy them. And if you do, blame Neil.
Hang on, that's effectively what you said on Twitter.
Yeah,
you basically just turned around and said, "It's not my fault. Just blame Neil."
Well, yes. It's your podcast. I'm just a voice on you. If you can't control your guests, Neil, then that's that's something you need to take with the production company.
Right. Okay. Okay. At this point, can I just say, will you stop buying all of the Rings figures?
I have.
Yeah, that's only because you bought them all.
On to my normal bit, right? Let's start off with the buy-in, shall we? Let's get that one out of the way. Nothing. I bought nothing this week.
Really?
Yep. Nothing at all.
Can I just say that, yes, I find that, mind you, having said that, that might be along the same reason why I didn't buy anything this week, because I basically looked at what I bought over the last 2 or 3 weeks and went, you know what, I think I need a week off.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I did get a parcel from Gareth at ADC Painting. My World War II Belgiums have arrived back. So
sorry,
World War II Belgiums.
Where did they come from?
Well, they
Belgium.
Yeah.
Belgium, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to bleep that now. You do realise that?
Yes.
Either that or Gareth.
Yeah, well, actually, they came from Early War Miniatures via Rich Clark to me, to Gareth, back to me. Yeah,
Hang on, so they're not 28.
No, these are 20s, 20 mils. God's own scale for World War II.
I just wasn't aware that you were doing a Belgian army for World War II.
Yeah, well, I've been wanting to do 1940 for a while, so I've done the Germans.
Hmm.
And I thought, well, who's the best army to have against the Germans? It's got to be the Belgians. Okay, they're only in it for 18 days, but it's 18 fun-packed days.
of sitting there going, you could go round, you know. Would
Let's
you like to go round?
Yeah, we'll let you through this way. Yeah. But they're really interesting orders of battle. Big platoons. There's like about 60 men in each platoon. Huge. And, no real vehicles. A couple of motorcycles. I think the biggest thing I got is a little half track to pull some 45mm anti-tank guns. So yeah, I just thought it'd be fun. It's a period of history I know very little about, and I think the best way to learn about history is Wargamer. So I'm doing Belgiums. So they've arrived and they're gorgeous. He's done a fantastic job on them. Oh, absolutely fantastic. I've been to the attic earlier. Here's a funny story for you. So I put up the attic to get the suitcases ready for going away, and having a rummage around, and I thought, somewhere in here I've got the Warhammer Fortress, the plastic castle.
Oh, what, from a Warhammer Siege days?
Yeah.
Oh, crikey.
The Mighty Fortress.
It's the plastic one. I think the Mighty Fortress was the very first one, wasn't it?
No, I don't know. We have a Mighty Fortress.
Yeah, it's a sort of square one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that one, yeah. So I knew I had one up in a box, because I thought it might be useful for, some Helm's Deep style-y, gamey. So having a root around.
It's a castle wall, yes.
Yeah, it's a big castle wall. It's pretty much all you need.
Let's face it, you can have something for you
to bounce off, yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I found that box, opened it up, and lo and behold, inside was 2 boxes of Fellowship of the Ring figures that I completely forgot that I bought 15 years ago.
What?
Oh dear.
2 boxes?
Yeah, there's the Fellowship of the Ring, which is odd because I've already got the Fellowship of the Ring painted, so I can't remember why I got 2 boxes of it. I think one must have been a present. There's the Weathertop box with the 5 ring race and and all them. And oddly, and I've got no recollection of actually getting this. It must have been a present, but the Balin's Tomb display stand, which I think came with a magazine.
Balin's Tomb. Oh, right, so is that different from the?
It came if you subscribed to the Strategy Battles in Middle-earth partwork. I know because I have.
Yeah, it's the Longsea. The Legacy, what they're called.
The Longi.
Diagostini.
Yeah. So one of those.
Diagostini. Yes.
Yeah.
It did.
I think it was a present because I never subscribed to that magazine, but it's very nice.
I did. I've got rid of most of mine, but I did promise Neil, I think, at some point that I have a Balin's Tomb.
Oh,
well, somebody could have a Balin's Tomb.
I've got one, Mike.
Yeah. Anybody want a Balin's Tomb?
Can I have a Balin's Tomb, please, sir?
Yeah, as soon as I get to that corner of the workshop.
Hang on a second, Mike. So, in all this, I'm trying to think of the correct word. This whirlwind.
Kerfuffle.
No. This whirlwind of purchasing.
Yeah.
That you've done, and all these figures that you have purchased.
Yeah.
From Lord of the Rings over the past few weeks. Especially things like all the ring blades you bought, those sort of bits and pieces. Have you perchance kind of duplicated any of this stuff?
No. Well, there might be a few duplicates of some of the characters, but no, the ring race I got before were all the mounted ones.
Oh, okay.
And the ones in Weathertop are dismounted.
The dismounted ones.
Yeah, but I don't.
So you got away with it. Then.
Yeah, I don't think it's wrong to have 20 ring wraiths.
What?
9 rings to
9.
roll.
Plus this,
9 for mortal men under the sky. 9, not 20. 9.
oh, they're different ages. I've got 9 mounted. Plus, I got the Witch King mounted and dismounted.
Who is actually one of the 9.
Yes. Plus, I got another 5 dismounted. Then I've got the Witch King on its own with Eowyn. And then I got the Witch King again on the Fell Beast.
Yeah.
And then I got another Fell Beast.
Yeah, so you can kind of mix and match.
I can do a lot with the Ring Wraiths, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, especially considering, from what I remember of when I was in the film, you sound like you're a few Ring Wraith on Fell Beast short.
Well, there is one more I could get if I wanted to. Anyway, let me crack on with the stuff I've been doing. So, painting, Urukai.
What again?
The Urukai mountain is
even more Urukai.
Yeah, I've done 150 now.
150.
Yeah, I've
So
only got
very-
8 left, and they're half painted. About
How long is it taking you to do all this?
a month.
Really?
Yeah, I've also done the Sauron and the Grimer, and I've got the 2 models of the Urukai carrying Merry and Pippin.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking of a really good little scenario. Well, a really good scenario now is going to be. I've got the old metal Urukai, which are all in sort of leather from the Fellowship.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm thinking a couple of packs of them, or a couple of units of them, with the 2 carrying Merry and Pippin, going across a board, meeting a bunch of orcs somewhere in the centre, and the other player then can play some riders of Rohan. And the objective can be for Merry and Pippin to escape. I think that'd be a lush little scenario.
It would. If only you had some Riders of Rohan.
That's my next job, Neil.
Really? Why is that then, Mike?
Because the poll was voted on and Riders of Rohan won. Yes. Horses.
Oh, shocking indeed, horror. I think yes. At the point where you let slip, I've got to play horses. Yeah, that was always going to be the favourite, wasn't it?
Yeah. But it works. So I've done that. I've been playing some games. We had a game of the game that can't be mentioned. We had a Lord of the Rings game of the game that can't be mentioned with Matt and Ralph and Jeff and Steve. Hi Steve. Hi Jeff. And
Hi, Steve.
And Mark as well. So that was good fun. I've had a game of 7 Continents. Me and Mark got together. We had a game of that. That's going really well. I so love that game.
Mm.
We've saved our progress now, so we can get together in a week or so's time and carry on to try and lift our curse. But it's good. And I tried the Lord of the Rings card game.
Oh, you give it a go, did you?
Yeah, it's quite interesting, isn't it? I've only played it on easy mode and just solo.
Yeah.
But Mark had a game and I basically went for the rules with him, and we both sort of thought, "Ooh, we're not sure." And then I got home and I just played it. Yeah, I can kind of see where it's going. It's interesting. I need to play a few more games. I'm not going to go down the route of trying to make my own decks and things. I can't be asked for that. I'd be quite happy just to use one of the pre-formatted decks and just play a couple of scenarios.
Yeah. It has to be said there were quite a few people who have chimed in and gone, "Would you mind doing a full review show of it and talk about it a lot?"
Mm. Yeah,
so
doing.
I think we shall have to do that. For me, it's very kind of RPG lightish, and it's certainly got tons and tons of flavour.
Mm.
For want of a better phrase, it's very Lord of the Rings. And on top of that, it's blooming difficult. Some of the scenarios are relatively easy, and some are well nigh impossible, and that's before you get into the nightmare decks. I mean, that's something we need to talk about another time. But no, I mean, I love it. I think it's a really well produced game. But as you say, it goes off in a myriad of directions.
Yeah, I mean, I've only had the one game, and it's the first sort of car game I've ever played. So I was just about the mechanics and how the turns work, and just trying to understand, the basics of the game. But yeah, I could see it, and it was interesting. Again, really clever little mechanics, and yeah, I enjoyed it.
Good.
So, yeah, so I should be trying that again.
Good. I'm really glad you enjoyed a game that I'd recommend to somebody else and you then bought.
Indeed. I think. Before I finish, one last thing. October the 7th. It's the Firestorm Games Bring and Buy sale.
Mm-hmm.
And also, friend of the show, Adrian McWalter, is coming down to demonstrate Forager. And I've been talked in to help him, and I'll be doing some demos of Over the Hills.
Oh, really? Oh, cool.
Yeah, so, and I think Warlord are coming down as well and doing demos of their Red Sky game, or whatever it's called. Yeah, and Test of Honor and stuff, so they'll be there. So if you're not going to Derby and you're in the South Wales area, come along to Firestorm Games. Buy me a coffee. I'll always drink it.
Yes. Yeah, Mike was saying, oh, come along. And I was like, yeah, that's fantastic. Hang on a second. Hang on, that date rings a bell. I went, oh, it's Derby that weekend.
Mm.
Yeah, so yeah, if you're not going to Derby, I'm still toying with the idea, of doing Cardiff on Saturday and Derby on Sunday for a change. But I don't know if that's asking too much, especially considering I'm doing warming states the week before.
Oh, not too much. I'll make you a bacon sandwich and keep it mine.
Yeah, but if I can keep it yours, that means I'm going to drive back from yours to Derby.
Yeah, straight down the M50, you'd be fine. Take about 4 hours, no problem.
Oh, you're not selling it, mate. You're not selling it.
I'll come over on Friday, stay Saturday, drive over to Derby on Saturday night.
Not sure that sells it either.
The Firestorm day does sound like a really good day. I am very, very zipped.
It is always a good day. The bring and buys there are excellent. They're just a whole load of tabletop sales all day.
Whole load of loose shells.
Plus the loose shells, yeah.
Actually, a whole load of tabletop sales. That sounds just dangerous. Hang on a second. I remember. I remember you tweeting after the last one.
Yeah.
I just found this and that and this.
Yeah.
And the other.
But I'll be working this time, so I won't have a chance to buy anything.
Yeah.
Can I hold you to that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. We done then?
No.
Oh yeah. Go on then, Mr. Whittaker. Yes.
I missed a purchase. Does anybody remember? Oh, a while ago we were talking about Empires Wars range of MDF buildings.
Oh yeah.
Who did a bunch of what's the word here? They do pre-paints, but they're a different style of pre-paint to full ground. Mm. They're rather nice. They do a range of 28mm Normandy. They've added a new range. And you have one guess, given that I bounced so loud that my colleague at work looked at me and went, what?
Oh, that would be Italy then.
Yeah.
15mm Italy.
15mm Italy, oh my word.
15mm Spanish stroke Italian. They do a villa, a chapel, a taverna with an arched front and a balcony, a 3-story townhouse with a balcony, a little farm building with a courtyard and a lean-to, or they do them all as a pack. And the pack for the villa is £20, it's 3 buildings and a surrounding wall, so it's quite impressive. The church is a tenner, taverna is £7.50, the house is 10. The small farm is 8, or the whole lot is 45, which is not bad for.
And given what you just said, what they are, I'm assuming they could also double as potential Peninsular War stuff.
That is why they are listed as Spanish/Italian.
That does make sense.
In 50.
Yeah, they also do. They've also done some in 28 for a while, actually, and I'm itching to see if they'll do the monastery in 15, because the monastery in 28 is bloody lovely. It really is nice.
How are they doing the roofs with the tiles? Are they?
The roofs look suspiciously as though they're resin.
There's another film that does that, isn't there? They do the shell.
Charlie Foxtrot does that, and isn't Ham and Jam doing something similar? But I think they're 3D printing their roofs.
Ham and Jam, no, they laser cut very, very thin MDF into the ships, and then they're glued on.
I have a suspicion, actually, looking at these, they look they might not be. They're either resin or they're Will's Pantal sheets, but I think they're resin. And they've done a little sort of piece of dowel for the ridge tiles, which is quite effective. They also now do 15mm Normandy, which I don't think they'd done at the point when we were discussing this last. The average building is £7.
Yeah, the 15mm Normandy range is now quite extensive, isn't it?
And rather nice. They'll do you a job lot of 11 buildings, which includes 5 small houses, several larger houses, and a whacking great church for... Lost it. Where's the big set? There we are, for £75. Although, if you look at their eBay store, you can quite often pick them up for a few quid less. Anyway, I have a bunch of those on order. I expect a review when they arrive, which according to the eBay shipping notice is the 20th.
And it may be worth noting, although they might have sold out by the time you listen to this, but it's worth going on to the bargain basement at North Star, because they are currently selling, amongst other things, they're selling the 15mm foreground La Haye Saint for half price.
I think they've actually had one of those at half price before, because I bought it from them.
They currently sell there's that half price, and there's there's the L-shaped hotel.
Yes.
Which actually, I don't know if I can confess that.
If you are in need, basically, if you are in need of populating a large built up area of Normandy in 15mm,
there are many places you can go to. Yes.
There are many places you can go to, which is quite nice, because you can wind up with a town that doesn't look like the generic foreground. Meaning no disrespect to foreground, the generic everything looks like it's made by foreground town. Particularly since there's now Dave's Miniatures, who are at Hereward, there's Sarissa, there's Foreground, there's Empires at War. Need we go on? That's before you move on to the resin. There's a few other people who do MDF now as well in 15. Yeah, you're getting spoilt for choice.
Ooh, that was an interesting one. I don't know if you spotted this. Talking of resin, one of our favourite resin building producing companies from Europe, good old Nedrowitz.
You mean Nedrowitz Modelbau, who don't do resin buildings anymore?
Don't do resin buildings anymore.
No, they have moved on to selling 3D print files, which is an interesting thing to do. Now rather than selling the building, they'll just sell you an STL file. They will. They have the casino from Ouistreham for the longest day. They have another Normandy farmhouse, as if I didn't own enough Normandy farmsteads. They have the house from Deadman's Corner, which they did as resin before. They have what they describe Saint-Mère-Église Church, the Café de Normandie in Carentan, the Pegasus Bridge and Café Gondry, which, with the best will in the world, there are enough people who do that. I'm not sure another was really necessary.
Yeah, but they did do it in they did previously do it in 28.
True, so it's now scalable to your heart's content, although you've got to watch its scaling stuff just to make sure that you don't hit the point where detail vanishes up its own what's-it, or supports vanish to the point that they're narrower than the nozzle thickness and your construct falls down.
But no, I just thought that was a really interesting move, that they're suddenly going, okay, well, we're not producing buildings anymore. It's like,
I agree. But there's Tiger Terrain. That's another one.
Tiger Terrain. They're brilliant. They're really nice.
They do some lovely ones. So yeah, just as a complete aside from that, from the original conversation, you're spoiled for choice for Normandy these days. If everybody would now do the same for Italy, I'd be a happy man.
Anyway, right, okay, shall we move on?
Yes, let's.
Right, okay, so we've got a game review for you. Good grief, more. It's a board game review.
And what's worse, it's a new board game review. Or a review of a new game.
Yes, review of a new game. Yes, indeed. So yeah, we'll take a break, and when we come back, we'll be talking all about The Godfather.
Wow, 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 wow.
We hope that you're enjoying this episode of the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you are, would you like to support us? There's a couple of ways of doing so. You can become a patron of the show by supporting us on our Patreon page. There you can give regularly every time we produce a show. Alternatively, you may want to give a one-off donation, and you can do that by using PayPal. For more details on both these options, please click on the Donate tab on our website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. You download my podcast on the day of my daughter's wedding, and you ask me, Don Corleone, can you please review this game? This game named in your honor. But you say you mean no disrespect. So I say to you, here is the review of the game of my name. And remember, it's only business. What's this? I hear you say. A board game review?
What's this?
A board game review.
There's an echo in here.
Echo.
In here.
Yeah, and what is more, of a recently released game.
Say it ain't so.
We are going to do a written review of this as well, but it has to be said, it's such a good game that we thought we'd give it the proper full online treatment. That game is, of course, as you've guessed from our introduction, The Godfather, Corleone's Empire, which was released this year by Corleone or Not? Is it Corleone or Not?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I'll just turn the box over.
There's some contents in that box not tied down, Hobbsy.
Yeah, it's Corleone or Not, Spaghetti Western Games.
Written by Eric M. Lang.
Is the M mandatory?
Well, it's probably for Mark, actually. Mandatory's a bit of a silly middle name.
Yeah.
That's Eric M. Lang, responsible for Blood Rage.
Indeed.
Indeed.
A Game of Thrones, the card game. Call of Cthulhu, the card game. Star Wars, seeing a pattern here. Dilbert, the board game. XCOM, the board game. A Song of Ice and Fire, the tabletop miniatures game. Is that the one that's being madly kickstarted that I'm not going to spend any money on, honest?
That's the one that's now in late pledge, but yes, it's the same guy.
That's the one I'm not buying. Okay, right. It's that guy. So,
Yes.
He has previous, and good previous at that.
Indeed.
Indeed he does.
And he's worked, he apparently is now
I think he's one of the top guys now at Cool Mini or Not.
He is Cool Mini or Not's Director of Game Design.
Mm.
He's so influential a game designer. He has his own Wikipedia page.
Yes. Started out designing games with has worked a lot with Fantasy Flight and is now working with Cool Mini or Not.
Yeah, started out as a playtester for Faza. Let's go back a bit.
Oh yeah, just a little, yes. But no, decent game designer. Very good game
clearly.
designer.
I'm soft spot for Blood Rage.
Still not played it. Was hoping to get it played while we were at Firestorm and got distracted with this.
Have had the box open, moved the miniatures around and looked at the rules, which I think is better than you.
I played it, but we are getting distracted.
We are indeed.
Anyway, that bloke.
So, it is the Godfather Corleone's Empire.
Well, I guess it falls to me to be the interrogator since I haven't played it. What's it about, guys?
It's a mob game.
Strange that, isn't it?
Yeah. Okay, let's get the basics out of the way with. It's a game for 2 to 5 players, 14 plus, plays in about an hour and a half.
Hour and a half to I'd say hour and a half to 2 hours. The first game might take a bit longer. You're probably looking maybe half an hour a player, possibly slightly less.
Yeah. It's a very simple game. Neil will now describe the type of board game it is because I haven't got a clue. He'll use words like collaborative and Euro and other words like that. Over to you, Neil.
Okay, so it's not any of those.
Okay.
Well, given its design as a Canadian, it can hardly be a Euro game, can it?
No, it is very much in the for what has become, for lack of a better word, it is more an Ameritrash style. Although there isn't player knockout in this game, okay, as you may find in a lot of those style games. However, it is worker placement, area control. It's set ostensibly from a theme point of view. It follows the story of the Godfather. In the fact of it's set during 40s and 50s New York. Players are playing families that are vying for control of various neighborhoods of New York, and in doing so using both family influence and thuggery. It's on the confrontational side. There are some area control games that essentially let you kind of everybody get on with it, and there's a little bit of interaction between people. This game is very much everybody's in the other. It can be in each other's faces because
you'd rather hope, given the theme, wouldn't you?
Well, yes. So in that sense, it is very thematic. You are in each other's faces as you vie for control of New York.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Medium complexity.
What are we talking about? Sort of comparable with Carcassonne, or comparable with Lords of Waterdeep?
Lords of Waterdeep is the thing that immediately springs to mind from my side. Right. Lords of Waterdeep, more interactive.
Right.
It is a standard worker placement game in essentially what you're having to do is you're having to gather resources in order to complete tasks. Using your miniatures to be put into places, so say to gather various resources together.
So it's the classic, if you have X Meeples in location Y, you get item Z, which allows you to generate more of Meeple type P to place in location Q to...
No.
Oh, okay. So not that kind of worker placement.
Ish. I mean, it's more... Right, okay, so you are gaining resources to complete tasks. Those tasks give you money. But money is victory in this game. However, there are other things that will also give you money. but also there's an added twist in the fact of actually in order to secure your victory points, you actually have to launder your money away, which you can only do by performing a particular task, which is potentially in short supply depending where you are on the board. So certain areas on the board allow you to do different things. So you place a worker into a particular area in order for you to carry out particular tasks, gain particular resources.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the board.
Yeah,
is
what's in the box?
Yeah. Oh, there's lots of stuff in the box. Lots of figures, lots of bits of cardboard and a board. And tins. So, the board...
Those are inspired. We'll come to them in a minute.
Yeah. The board is essentially a map of New York, split up into various areas.
7, I believe.
7 areas. In each area, there are businesses, and some of these businesses are part of the board, and some are random ones which are placed during the game. And the businesses have a front and a back. And the front will give you one resource, the back may give you a different resource. And each player will start off...
So I have to ask this. Is the business at the front a front for the business at the back?
It could be. You can see the way this is going, Mike.
I can see the way this is going, yes.
Yeah. So that's the board. So you have businesses that you place out as the game goes on. The game is basically split into 4 acts, or 4 turns. Each player runs a family, and you start off with one figure for the Don, and a number of thugs. And then as the game progresses, your family gets a bit bigger. So you have your deputy, you have your heir who will join you, and you also have the chance of recruiting some allies. And what you do is that's the worker placement bit, isn't it, Neil? So
yep.
During the turn, as I say, there's 4 acts. The turn is broken down into various phases. So you start off at the beginning of each act with open a new business, which is basically it's placing a new business onto the board.
Now, these businesses are there are multiple business cards. They are so there are more than what will normally fit on the board. So it's random, which means that this gives you part of the extra replayability element of the game. Yeah,
and it's always different. Once you've done that, you then go into what's called the family business phase, and this is the meat of the game, really. So the player who has the initiative, as you say, I suppose, or the first player, this is signified by having the horse's head icon.
Classic.
That did make a smile. And yes, yeah. There is actually, yes, it is a token with the sculpted horse's head on it.
Yeah.
Because, yes, as Mike was saying, very cool miniatures in this. Very nice.
Yeah. So whoever has the horse's head, basically, you do an action. And once you've done that action, it moves the player on your left, and it keeps going round. And you keep going round until you can't do anything else. So, things you can do. You can play a thug. So, you use one of your thug figures to basically, as they say in the trade, shake down the front of a business. Which essentially means you put it onto one of these business cards on the board, and whenever that business produces, you get that particular resource. So, it may be Chinese laundry that's going to give you some money. So you put the figure down, you get some cash, or you might get some guns or some narcotics later on in the game, or some alcohol. So you get that, and these are basically cards. So you basically take a card which represents that resource. The other thing you can do in your phase is you can play a family member. So, as I say, you get up to 3 at the later part of the game, but you start off with 1. The family members go into particular areas between the areas of the board. So you've got, like Queens and Brooklyn. there may be a space there you can place a family member. And when you place a family member, what that does is it basically shakes down all of the businesses in the adjacent turfs. So if you place a family member in one place, you could actually, all of the businesses in, say, 2 or possibly 3 turfs, you get all of those resources that those businesses generate. So that gives you a lot more resources. What else can we do, Neil?
That's okay.
Job.
And just to denote, and how can you tell the difference? Thugs have square bases. Family members have round bases. Thugs can only be placed into square areas on the board. Family members can only be placed into round areas on the board. So it's really intuitive and and easy to pick up where various models can be placed.
Yeah. So placing thugs and family members gives you resources. So what do we do with these resources? We use them for jobs. There are job cards that you hold in your hand. So you start the game with a hand with some jobs in it. Some of the businesses will give you jobs as well. And there's a pile of jobs that you can select cards from. So you select 2 cards, you keep 1. And that's a job. And that job might need, say, two alcohol resources. So in your family phase again, you can complete a job. So say I've collected my 2 alcohols and I've got my job which says if I spend 2 alcohols, I get some money and I also get, some other effect will happen. An action, yeah. So basically I complete that job. So I complete the job, I carry out what the action says, I take the cash goes into my hand.
Now, okay, in keeping with the theme, obviously these jobs include things like extortion, taking out hits on other mobsters, laundering money, gun running, producing illegitimate goods, all sorts of nice businesses. Right up to doing things like, I don't know, send off car bombs.
Yeah.
So all the jobs are themed around the sort of thing you might imagine a family in that line of business might be involved in.
Yeah. Now, you remember we mentioned these little tins. So each player has a little suitcase. There's a little tin suitcase. So whenever you complete a job, you put the job card that you've just completed into your tin. You can also launder money into your tin because at the end of the day, the way to win the game is by having as much money as possible in your tin. So you basically spend the turn doing these jobs. You can also play allies, so you can hire allies during the game as well. So you can play an ally as if you would one of your thugs or one of your family members. Each ally has a specific skill, shall we say. So you may have an ally who's the accountant who allows you to launder 2 items or two bits of cash into your tin.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep doing that. Now, as soon as you play your last figure, you can't do anything else. So you can do lots, so what you tend to do is you play your thug, you play a family member, you do some jobs, you collect some resources, you keep doing that, play an ally. But as soon as you put your last figure onto the board, that's your turn finished. And then the rest, and you're doing this in turn. You're all taking 1 turn each to do 1 thing. And you keep going until everybody's finished. Then, we come on to the next part of the game, he says. Not at all.
Turf War.
Turf War.
Turf War, indeed. Yeah, so, when you place your thugs and your family members on the board, they'll be placed either... The thugs will be placed into a particular district of New York. The family members will be placed in across borders, so they're adjacent to multiple districts. Each of your miniatures, now they have coloured bases, so you know whose miniatures are who. They exert influence into the area in which they are placed. Or, for example, if you have a family member that is across 3 districts, they exert influence into all 3 districts. Okay? Basically what you do, you then go and find out if anybody has more influence than their opponents in each district in turn. And it's simply a case of you count up how much influence you exert in each district. If you have more than anybody else, you take control of that district, and you place a counter down in that district to say that I have control of that district. If it's a draw, nothing happens.
Yeah, and the benefit of controlling an area is in the next turn, if somebody plays a thug in the district that you control, as well as them getting the resource, you also get the resource as well. So once you've done that, and that's quite quick to do, we then move on to the bribery phase. So I mentioned allies earlier. There are a number of allies. They go on the board at the beginning of each phase. There's specific allies for each of the acts in the game.
Mm-hmm.
And what you do in the bribery phase is you go into your suitcase and you pick one note. I'm going to say notes. Basically, they're cards of money. And the money cards in this game there's $1, $2, $3, and $5 cards. And you basically take one of those from your suitcase.
You can take as many as you like.
You take as many as you like, indeed. You put them into the lid of your suitcase. You keep them a secret. And then you show them. You all show them together, and whoever has put the most amount of money in the top of the suitcase gets to pick the first ally. And then it goes down through until, but there's going to be one player who isn't going to get an ally, because there's always one ally less than the number of players. If you don't bid, you don't get it. Don't get any.
But if you do bid and you don't get an ally, you don't lose the money.
No.
But it's basically a secret bid.
Yeah.
And that ally card will then go immediately into your hand.
Indeed. So once you've done that, we finish at the turn with the last phase, which is basically tribute to Don Corleone, where, well, basically the cards you've got in your hand, which might be some money, it might be some resources, it might be some jobs, you have to discard down to a certain level, and the level is determined by which act you're actually in. So you discard those, so you're down to a level, and then the turn starts again. And you go into the second act, and then the third act, and then the fourth. So in the second act, you may get another member of the family to join you. You might have an ally who can help you. So by having more family members, by having more allies, it lengthens the amount of things. So it increases the amount of things that you can do in your turn. It means you're not going to, use all your resources early. So it gives you more chance to do jobs, collect resources, stash money away.
And also, at the start of each act, the first thing that happens is another business opens up. So again, that will give you the potential to earn extra resources, or perform extra actions.
Yeah. So you do that 4 times for the 4 acts. You'll notice the game builds quite merrily and gets more violent. And people start blowing each other up. Because you can do drive-by shootings and take out thugs and family members in each turn. And they get dumped in the East Hudson River.
They do indeed. Yes. So if you kill a thug or a family member, then they get dumped, and they come back to the player at the end of the act. So they're available for the following turn. Why on earth would you want to do that? Basically, it's all to do with if,
business.
For example, well, what's the phrase? It's nothing personal.
Nothing personal, Neil.
I heard that a lot, strangely enough. Yeah. Most businesses only have, all businesses have one space in front of them. So, if you're after a particular resource, which somebody else has previously nabbed with a thug, the only way that you can get that square is to kill that thug first, by which you can do something like, I don't know, perform a drive-by shooting. So you perform the job, the action is you remove the thug, and that leaves that area now free. So on a future turn, as long as nobody else gets in before you, you can then place a thug into that area yourself. So it basically starts freeing. So the idea is it starts to free up different areas, so you can start taking the resources that people may have done already. And obviously the other thing is because as well as gaining resources, you're also managing what influence you get. Obviously, as you get more miniatures during the game, you can start exerting more influence. And so, drive-by shootings and car bombs, and there's another couple of actions you can do, essentially mean that you can start assassinating thugs and family members to remove them from the board. So when it comes to the turf war phase, where you're trying to find out who has control over a particular area, obviously particular figures are removed from the game. Usually mine.
Yeah.
Nothing new there then?
No.
It's all about timing.
Yeah, it is very, very much so, very much so. So, mechanically, it's very simple. It's gather resources in order to complete jobs. Jobs give you money and a bonus action. And at the end of the day, the money are your victory points. But in order to secure your victory points, you have to squirrel them away into your suitcase, i.e. your little money tin. Interestingly, when you put money into your money tin, you have to show all the players what you're putting into your tin. So the other players get an idea of what you're putting into the tin. So some of it is possibly trying to remember just how much money your opponents are putting away. It is important because there are cards. I think I mentioned extortion. There are cards that give you actions which allow you to steal money off other players.
Yeah.
You may laugh, Mr. Hobbs. It's potentially important to know who's putting the most money away, who you think's in the lead, and try and keep tabs on what's going on. Because, as I say, your victory points are hidden in this game. You don't know what everybody's got until right at the end of the game.
Yeah. And it might also be beneficial to put away some $1 notes into your suitcase instead of trying to put the big notes away.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mike. Yeah. So, yes.
I infer you got bitten by that, did you?
Oh, just a little bit. Yeah. That extortion card I told you about earlier. Yeah. Which allows you to take money. Now, the scoring on at the end of the final act in the last turn is a little bit different because you get some extra little bits involved.
Yeah.
So, when you get to the end of the game, we were talking about areas of control. Why are these important? Well, they give you bonuses during the game. However, at the end of the game, they also score you bonuses. So, for the areas you control, for each area that you control, you gain a bonus of $5. So, if there were three of us playing if us three were playing the game, for example, and if I controlled 2 areas, Mr. Hobbs controlled 3 areas, and Mr. Whittaker controlled 1 area, he would get $5, Mr. Hobbs would get $15, and I would get $10. Right? Again, victory points. Okay, so that's number of victory points at the end of the game. And these bonuses at the end of the game can actually add up. and potentially sway the outcome of the game simply on their own. So they are important. There is something else, isn't there, Mr. Hobbs?
Okay, so control markers. You get a £5 bonus for each turf that you have the most control markers in. Dollar, sorry. And if you got ties, it goes to the highest marker. So say Neil held on to, say Brooklyn. Right. So say Neil had it in Act 1. I took over control in Act 2. Neil grabbed it back in Act 3, and I grabbed it back in Act 4. We'd have 2 each. But because my marker is at the top, I would win the tie. And you basically do that for each of the 7 areas. And you get £5 bonus for each turf that you own. Dollar. Dollar, pound. It's all equal the same these days.
Indeed.
It is with the current exchange rate.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
You then have a bonus for each job colour. So these jobs that we've been trying to do, they've got different colours. There's 3 or 4 different colours, I think, at the top of my head, Neil.
Yeah, it's yellow, green, grey, and purple, off the top of my head.
Purple or blue, one of those. Anyway,
One of those.
you basically, each player counts up the number of each colour, and whoever's got the most colour gets a $5 bonus for each of the colours.
Mm-hmm.
You add that to your money. Now you can also, at the end of the game, and this is something we did wrong. So in the end of Act 4, you do your tribute to the Don, and you discard down to the number of cards in your hand. You'll be left with 2 money cards in your hand.
No. It doesn't work like that.
It does. It says place the 2 money cards left in your hand inside the suitcase, or any other type is discarded.
Oh, we read that wrong.
Yeah.
Because I thought it was you discard any money cards in your hand.
So you do the discard as normal, but you keep your hand, don't you? So you keep 2 cards, you keep 2 money cards in your hand, and they go into your suitcase right at the end.
So is this rules badly written, or somebody not paying attention?
No, this is reading the rules as exactly as they say, as opposed to what you think they mean.
Yeah. Because I'm just looking at the back of the page now, and it just says quite merrily, yeah, place the 2 money cards left in your hand inside your suitcase.
The game summary and the actual rule in the book are different.
Yeah.
If you read the, yeah, that's one where yes, there is an issue with the rule book. The rule summary is different from what the actual end of what the rules say when it just goes.
So
to
as
the
the saying goes, when faced with the choice, read the rules rather than the summary.
So the rules say on page 23. Once Act 4 is done, the game is over and it's time to see which family managed to amass the most money. During the tributes to the Don phase of Act 4, players were only allowed to keep up to 2 cards in hand. Unlike other rounds, players now place the cards from their hand inside their suitcases, as long as they are money cards. So you discard down, you can only keep 2 cards. You're obviously
yeah. Mm.
Seems perfectly logical to me, Neil.
Seems perfectly logical to yes. Okay, yeah. Got that one then. Thank you, Mr. Hobbs.
That's okay. We'll have to play the game again.
Yeah.
I'll get the chaps together. You and Dave drive over to Cardiff immediately.
Who says this game isn't educational? Show isn't educational.
Yes.
Yeah, we played it. So we played it wrong twice. Well, there we go.
Yeah.
It's all right. I'm still discovering I ain't been shop room rules I've missed.
And that's basically it. You basically collect all the money up. Whoever's got the most money is the winner. Tiebreaker, player with the most turf, dominance is the winner. And that's the Godfather.
Cool. So, what do you think?
Yeah, it's great. It's
10 out of 10 would play again?
Oh, definitely. I bought it.
I'm going to say, I'll refer the honourable gentleman to the episode where we played it. Mike bought, and immediately afterwards, actually after the first turn, Dave said, "I'm buying this."
That's probably the best. We liked it so much. Dave loved the game.
Yeah. It is worth noting, interestingly, as I say, we then played it the following week, and actually had quite a different gaming experience. Admittedly, we were playing with two different players, but there was a different gaming experience because the businesses that came out on the board actually meant that resources were a lot more difficult to come by. Yeah, there were a lot of opportunities to launder money away, but there weren't a lot of opportunities to gain resources to complete jobs. It was really quite tight, and it was a very different game to the one we played at the weekend, where everybody seemed to. Well, I think most of my figures ended up in the Hudson in most turns.
Yeah.
Which is a good, it's a good thing. I mean, as I say, it actually had a quite a different feel to it. So much so that actually one of the guys playing didn't particularly enjoy it, which I was quite surprised with. But as I say, the game we played on the Saturday was an absolute blast. It was really, really good. And I must admit, I enjoyed both games. The Saturday one and the one we played the following week. They were different, but the whole synergy of the way all the mechanics work, and the way the game hangs together and stuff is really good.
So has replay value then?
Oh, very much so. Yeah, very much so. Yeah, as I say, it will be. I would imagine it will be a completely different game with two players. Not the least because the number of areas that you can place your miniatures is greatly reduced. So the game very much forces you right into each other's faces. So the 2-player version might be really interesting. A 5-player version could be absolute carnage.
Yeah.
And we played with 4 both times, which could be a sweet spot. But no, it is a really good game.
We should talk about the miniatures as well. Because
we should.
They're outstanding. They're absolutely fantastic. They're a nice size 28mm miniature. They're all single pose, hard plastic, but really characterful. And when I looked at the game, first of all, I just thought, ooh, Pulp Alley. Or 7TV, or any of those little gang-sized games. I could use those figures in there.
It has to be noted, with the exception of the thugs, every miniature is different.
Yeah. And there's 34 miniatures in there?
Yeah. And they're all based on different characters, funnily enough, from the first Godfather film.
Yeah, production values in this game are fantastic.
Nice.
So,
where can I get it? Obviously, Firestorm, I guess. And how much does it cost?
Good question. £80, Neil?
It's around about £80. You can get it slightly cheaper depending where you shop. It's available at all good board game retail outlets. You didn't ask us if there was anything bad about the game.
Is there?
There was one thing that Mike flagged up.
Yeah.
Which was what, Hobbsy?
The only thing I'd say about it is, it's a great game. And I think I've mentioned this in the last podcast. I think it could have a bit more feel of the Godfather in it. It just didn't, other than the artwork, and the fact you have to do this tribute to the Don, which is basically discards in your hand. There's nothing really of the film in it. I think they could have done a bit more with the jobs, maybe have members of the Corleone family appearing as allies, or just turning up in some way. It just seemed to be missing that link back to the Godfather. You know, I don't know whether you can just put the name Godfather on it and have a picture of Marlon Brando holding a glass of brandy.
And a cat. And a cat. Yeah. Don't forget the cat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it is undoubtedly a mafia mob game.
Yeah.
And as I said, and I think as we suggested at the time, the fact it's got the Godfather on it means it's got, it could have easily have been called, I don't know, New York Mob War.
Gangs of New York.
No, Gangs of New York is something different.
I know.
Goodfellas. It could be any. It could be the Sopranos game.
The Sopranos.
Indeed. Indeed. But it's simply a case of they bought a license to get a name to sell it. But it's a mob mafia game. It didn't make us wonder. The fact it's because the game is specifically based around film 1, whether they're potentially going to bring out expansions which have more of a theme from the following films. Which somebody then immediately said, well, in that case, then I'm buying expansion 2, expansion 3. I don't think I'll bother with. However, as I say, it's worth pointing out, but it's a minor quibble. The game has a lot of theme, mob related.
Yeah.
Not necessarily related specifically to the film.
Yeah, and that's my only criticism of it. But that aside, it's a fantastic game.
That said, if you take the dice out of any number of board games, if you take the counters out of and theme out of any number of board games, you just get left with a game I don't think that's a particularly fair. I mean, I haven't seen the games, so obviously I may be not entirely right, but I don't see that. I mean, if you take the fluff out of something like Puerto Rico, it just becomes a worker placement trading game. And similarly, any number of other games, you can remove the fluff. You still have a game.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it's a bad game. I'm just saying it didn't feel like I was playing something to do with the Godfather. It just felt like I was playing a.
What would you have wanted to make that feel?
Some more tie-in to the game. Felt like I'm doing jobs for the Don. Little things. Some way of bringing in the characters from the film into the game. Something like Rebellion or Imperial Assault makes you feel like you're playing in the Star Wars universe or in the Star Wars film, because it has nods to things that happened in those films. This doesn't have a nod to anything really from the Godfather, and I just think they could have just done something.
I know it sounds daft, but even down to the fact of, as opposed to having generic job types, you could have had unique job, and I know this is kind of introducing things like extra costs for printing, but you could have had jobs relating to, say, events that happened in the film, hits on particular characters, so just things that relate, resolving an issue between two families. It's not a lot. It's just a couple of little. It's just a couple of little things, and we're not at all saying it's a pasted-on theme. I mean, because some games really are, it really have their themes, pasted on, and it could be anything. This is very much. It fits the game. It's just there's a couple of little things mean that it's okay. Yeah, you're involved in a mob game. But as we said, it could just as easily be Goodfellas or Sopranos as opposed to The Godfather.
Yeah.
Okay, fair comment. Anything else either of you want to raise?
No, I'm glad I bought it. I'm really, like I said, it's a great game. You know, we had a brilliant time playing it.
Oh, it's huge amounts of fun. Yeah, really, really good. Really good game.
Yeah.
It's I mean, it's as far as Board Game Geek rating is concerned, it's a definite 8 or 9 from my point of view. It's a cracking game.
Yeah.
So we have it. That is The Godfather, Corleone's Empire, from Cool Mini or Not, designed by Eric M. Lang.
It's only business, Neil.
I wish I had $1 for every time somebody turned around to me and said, it's only business. Do you know what? I might have won.
You come to me on my daughter's wedding day. It's a good game, and the figures are lush.
Yeah, it is a really good game. I mean, since we recorded that review, Mike, have you had a chance to play it again?
No. Well, I've looked at it longingly.
No, it is a cracking game. It really is good. Really enjoyed it. It will be really interesting to see what it's like with a different, with players like a different number of players. I think there's a potential that we might end up playing it a lot, maybe with 3, because for some reason, when we played it with 4, Richard in our game group wasn't immensely struck with it, but
very, very good.
Yeah. But like I say, it's only business.
Mm-hmm. So what have we got next?
What have we got next? Oh, crikey. What have we got next? I've got to think now. What have we got next? Well,
it's a surprise.
No, if everything goes to plan, because of our situation with the fact that I'm having to record in the toilet, or at least it sounds like I'm recording in the toilet. I'm not really honest, but we've actually not been recording interviews with guests or like game reviews or anything of these last couple of weeks. Largely
because the guests complain when you make them sit on the loo.
Well, there is that. It's because we don't want to squeeze our guests into a bathroom. We have decided anyway. So the bottom line is, we normally record a backlog of 2 or 3 weeks, or we had a backlog of 2 or 3 weeks of interviews and reviews. We have now used those up. It's official. So next week, it's going to be all being well, because I'm still just kind of confirming that we have previously arranged it, but I'm just confirming. All being well, all ducks being in a row, we will be talking to John Tuffley from Ground Zero Games, which I know is an interview that lots of people have been asking for a while. So, and I must admit, I'm really excited about it, because I think John's a bit of a legend in many ways. So I'm really looking forward to chatting to him all about how he got started in the hobby and Ground Zero Games and all to do with that. So I'm really looking forward to next week. However, 2 things are certain. One is that we will not have Mr. Luff, and the other is that we will not have Mr. Hobbs.
Yay! I'll be on a beach somewhere, drinking beer.
Looks like it'll be thee and me then, mate.
Yeah, because they're both away somewhere on holiday, drinking copious amounts of liquid refreshment.
Oh, it's all right for some, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
I'm just going for the culture. The fact there's a free bar there is immaterial.
Superb. So next week, it will be myself and Mr. Whittaker who will be sharing our weeks with you and chatting accordingly. And yet again, I have failed to produce a winner for the caption competition. I'm sorry. I've really just not had a chance to. I've really just not had a chance to think about it. And, it has to be said, work has been a bit stupid, and when I've not been at work, I've been, it's like, the weekend was a bit of a dead loss, and I've just not got around to it.
You'll just have to do it next week then.
We'll just have to do it next week. But no, I'm really sorry, guys. It's just getting ducks in a row and based on the bits and pieces. However, I'll desperately try and get it done for next week. So anyway, yes, thank you to Mr. Whittaker for enabling this podcast to go ahead. Yes, doing his sound engineering impression.
You can keep talking, by the way. According to Audacity, we can record for another 296 hours and 46 minutes.
I've run out of things to say.
Never.
Yeah.
And yes, thank you. Since he's run out of things to say, thank you to the Welsh Wizard for joining us on this pleasant evening.
Thank you, Neil, for inviting me once again. Thank you to all. See you in 2 weeks. Everyone, be good.
Have fun.
I will.
Indeed. And are you taking anything with you to paint, just to keep your hand in while you're away?
No. I'll be taking a Kindle, an iPod, and that's about it.
That's about it.
And some clothes.
That's
no
a relief.
Guest appearances.
Yeah.
No guest appearances planned on any of the podcasts while you're away?
No, because I'll be away in a while.
Have a good time.
I will.
Yep. Roll good dice.
There'll be no dice.
And thank you one and all for listening. Hope you've enjoyed it. Take care. And we will speak to you next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Meeples and Miniatures podcast. If you've enjoyed the show, why not share it with others by leaving us a review on iTunes? And if you have any comments or questions, you can always email the show. The address is info@meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. And you can also visit our webpage, where you'll find a complete episode archive, all the View from the Veranda podcasts, rules reviews, and our blog of hobby items and news, which is updated several times a week. This is also where you'll find the links to our presence on social media, and here you can follow us on Twitter or join our Facebook group. And finally, here you can also find details should you wish to support us by making a donation to the podcast. All this on the Meeples and Miniatures website, www.meeplesandminiatures.co.uk. The Meeples and Miniatures podcast is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 3.0 Unported license. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.